Ed Dean. Weekdays 5 to 7 p.m. on FM 99.9, 94.7, and 100.7. The views expressed on the following program are those of the hosts, callers, and guests, and are not necessarily those of WMEL staff, management, or advertisers.
This is Joe Steckler, folks, your host for Helping Seniors, the radio arm of Helping Seniors of Brevard County. We're in all kinds of media. We're in newspapers, we're in Senior Scene magazine, we've got this radio show, we've got television shows on Channel 499, and you can find out about all the stuff that we do by going to helpingseniorsofbrevard.org, or you can call Kay at the office at 473-7770. You can ask her questions. You can listen to what Bill and I talk about on the show today. And if you've got questions about what we have, you can call us here at the radio station, and you can ask us right here on the station, on the air. We've got to take your call. But the purpose of Helping Seniors is to inform, to educate, and help connect seniors and those that care for seniors with resources. That's all we are. We try to complete, not compete with others in the healthcare business. And no matter how hard you try to convince people that, it's hard to convince somebody to tell you're just trying to help people know more about what they're doing. And my panelist today is Bill Johnson. Bill was an elder law attorney, and he's been on the show many times with me over the years. I know Bill well. I know what he does. I know the staff in his office. I know that when I call and ask a question, I know I get a good answer. And I know if the answer is something that I don't want to hear, if it's what I should hear, it's what I hear. So that makes all the difference to me, is to getting a source, whether it be an attorney, whether it be a doctor. It's important that we get the right information. But it's also incumbent on us to do the best we can to find those sources that will give us good answers, not answers that we just want to hear, but answers that will help us understand the true picture. Bill does that. Dr. Earl Sheldon does that. We have a lot of Senior Scene magazine. They have some well-informed sources in Senior Scene magazine. So these are places you can go to get good answers. You always get answers on like that here on radio station WMEL. It's a talk show for the Space and Treasure Coast. Been here for years. I've been on it for 16 years now. I treasure what John Harper has brought to the Space and Treasure Coast in terms of broadcasting and making known the sponsors that support his work at the radio station. And I can tell you honestly, folks, both John and the radio station and me at Helping Seniors are always looking for new partners, new sponsors. We want people that will help us get the information out to people, but it's all a business. It is a business of helping people. It's a business of helping get information out. So some of my sponsors for today's show include the Eye Institute, Bill Johnson, my radio panelist today, and the elder law attorney, Wistoff Home Hospital, Levin Home Care, Care Patrol, Riverview Senior Resort, Organized Solutions, Brevard Chiropractic and Neurogen Center, Cobblestone Realty, Market Street Memory Care. And notice, folks, that all these people are organizations that support somehow care or information building or information sharing with seniors. And that's really important. It's a senior network. That's what we are. And like John's got the Talk to Me network here. He's got both this radio station and he's got several FM stations. And after the break, I'll give you the FM stations on the next half-hour break. John, or Bill, welcome to the show today. You know, you and I, we did a TV show last week on guardianships, and no matter how much the two of us have talked about it, and I went back and I looked at the numbers of shows that you and I have done over the last 12 years, and we have done shows on guardianships a number of times, but there's always new information. Plus, most of the old information is new to most people, isn't it?
Correct. It seems like we've been doing these shows so long that we have to rehash our subjects.
Yes. But no matter how much you rehash them, I can't think of anything that can be more devastating to a family than having to go into a contested guardianship.
I think that's probably, I think you're right. That is, one of the toughest things where you have family members going to court and, basically slinging mud at each other, trying to show that the other side's not fit to be the guardian of a parent. And, it doesn't really leave a good taste in anybody's mouth.
It's kind of like a political arena, isn't it?
Yeah.
Maybe we might talk about some of those things today, folks. Bill and I always share information on what's going on on television and everything. It's amazing how much you think you know, and then when you talk to somebody that tells you about another source, and you start checking things out, so many times what you're led to believe is just not true. And but that's something we can talk about. But Bill, what is a guardian? Go ahead. What
I was going to say, always good to have multiple sources, especially with opposing viewpoints.
Yes. Well, okay. You brought that up. As an attorney, as a guy that has to do the very best you can by your clients, does the political arena get involved? Do you get involved in that in working with your clients?
I am involved in the political arena in the state because I am a legislative chair of the elder law section of the Florida Bar. So I do follow legislation on the state level, and invariably that means you have to interact with politicians, yes.
Okay, can you talk about that a little bit? What is
Sure.
it? I'd like to, and this is something that
There's some interesting bills that are currently proposed. We have some bills that are proposed in the guardianship arena that basically help fix some little problems with the guardian statute and whether or not the examining committee report will be admissible, because technically an examining committee report is hearsay. That's the report of the people who go out and check whether or not somebody who's alleged to be incapacitated has capacity, and they file a report with the court. But technically that report in and of itself is hearsay, so it should be inadmissible, but we don't want to have to keep dragging all these people to court who prepare the report. So there's going to be a procedure now where we can just submit the report. You give the other side so much time to object, and if they're going to object, then to bring the subpoena the examining committee people to come to court.
Should streamline case.
Yeah, it will help fix that problem and help streamline the cases on that. There is an interesting bill about allowing the electronic execution of wills, where I could sit in front of my computer, sign my will, and then two other witnesses and a notary sitting at their computers could look through their cameras at me, or through my camera at me in front of my computer, and watch me sign the will, and then they can electronically sign their version wherever they're at and witness this with all four of us being in different locations.
But you'd all have the same will sitting in front of you.
Well, you would electronically sign it. So they're using this kind of method currently with deeds. Did you know you can sign a deed now? I could do a closing in Florida and I could be sitting in California. You can do a real estate deed by electronic signature now.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and it's been very successful with that. So this would kind of expand it to wills, but we got some problems with it. So I don't know how far this is going to go this year, but that's an interesting piece of legislation. There is, we talked a lot about Medicaid and long-term care. It is up for renewal, the whole long-term care managed care program. It's run for 5 years, so they are reassessing how successful the program was. Right now, I believe the nursing homes want out of the managed care program. And I think there's a tug of war going on.
Wait a minute. You're saying the nursing homes want out of the Medicaid?
They don't want to be part of the managed care part of it. They want to be their own exclusionary,
Why would that be?
Well, if they're in the managed care, supposedly the managed care company is going to provide care management services to the person in the nursing home, and oversee the care, or help oversee the care of the individual there. In reality, at least the argument of the nursing homes is that that's not happening. Either the people aren't being involved, or they never get involved, or if they are involved, they become problematic for the nursing home. So the nursing homes would rather be cut out from that whole program. So kind of like it used to be before,
Right.
where you would have one program for nursing homes and then one program for home and community-based services, instead of everybody being under one
Okay,
roof.
when you're talking about the Medicaid managed care program, this is the one that was the trial program.
This is the one, yes, the super waiver
Okay,
program.
but now the Medicaid managed care per se went away 2 years ago, right?
No, we have the Medicaid managed care long-term care waiver program. That's the one that manages long-term care for disabled individuals or people age 65 or older.
Okay, that's the one that they're just testing now.
Well, it's been 5 years.
Okay, well, but how about the one like that where we had certain daycares in the area and they had Coventry, had four.
Yes, yeah, those are the providers under this program. Coventry, United Healthcare, American Elder Care, and I know
there was one more.
Yeah, one more.
But those, okay, now those programs they offer on respite under their programs now, though, right?
Yeah, they offer a variety of things: adult daycare, respite care, home health care, assisted living care.
Is that program going to continue at the same level?
We don't know. We do not know. That's what they're reviewing. Remember, the promise of this program was it was going to save a lot of money.
Right.
Okay, so what they're investigating now is, has it saved any money?
There's a $72 million loss they've uncovered.
Well, if it hasn't saved any money, then they got, to reevaluate the whole thing.
Okay, you know what I'm talking about, don't you?
I do not know what you're talking about.
Okay, all right. Several weeks ago, it was determined that there was a shortfall of $72 million in the Medicaid program itself. So let's say we had roughly 50,000 people on the Medicaid managed care waiting list, roughly 50,000 people.
Right.
And they're short of $72 million to help pay for that program. They got to cover that money somewhere in order to keep that program coverage going at the same level. Yet they are forming a new budget. They got the shortfall, and plus we got more and more people getting older and qualifying for the care. So we've got sort of a 2 or 3-fold program right now.
And you forgot we keep giving tax cuts. So we have less money to make all this happen, too.
That's right. So that makes the problem even worse.
Right.
So my question would be I think I'll call one of the legislators and see if they would talk about it on the radio show.
That would be interesting.
It would be very interesting because it's something, there's still several weeks to go in a legislative session, correct?
Yes. They are just beginning. They're doing their committee meetings right now. So they actually haven't met as a group, to start voting on bills on the floor.
But if the people that qualify for Medicaid and are depending on Medicaid to help them get through on a daily basis, if we've got a multi-million-dollar shortfall, and if the legislators are not addressing that issue to cover what should be coming and not even going to be able to be met this year, it just exacerbates the problem.
It does. You are correct.
So then it seems to me like papers like Florida Today and some of these people some of these so-called investigative reporters should be talking about stuff like that, not just you and me on the radio show.
That would be good, yes. Yeah, our legislators currently right now are they've got something called what they call a memorial, where they are voting on whether or not to send up to Washington, D.C. a request that the federal government convert the current Medicaid system into what we call block grant Medicaid.
You're right. Yeah, that's something new that's coming along.
Yeah, and that is where the feds would give us some money, and it's up to the state to do what they will with it, which is a fancy way of saying make ends meet, because the Fed's not going to give you any increases on that money.
Well, it can't.
And that's what's going to happen. And then what we're going to do is when they run out of money in the Medicaid, everybody, I guess, will go to the hospital or something like that.
I just don't understand how we're going to.
Because we had block grant Medicaid in the 70s.
Yes.
And so what would happen is when you ran out of money, there wasn't any more, then what would happen is the nursing homes wouldn't get paid, and then they would say everybody's got a urinary tract infection and dump everybody off at the hospital.
But the way the law is written now, they can't dump them out of the nursing home.
Well, if they say they got an infection, they can, yeah. Sure they can.
If they say what?
They have an infection.
Oh, yeah, if they got
Yeah.
Yeah, then they got to send. Then the hospitals have to take them.
Yeah.
So it causes more of a problem for the hospital.
Exactly, where it's the most expensive place to treat those people.
And
then the nursing home doesn't take them back.
And the hospitals don't have any money to pay themselves.
Correct.
What
So the problem, well, yeah, and so that's what happens with block grant Medicaid, is that, then you and me start paying for it with higher insurance costs because we got to float the hospitals.
Bill, as long as you've been involved in this system and working with it, do you think there's any way on a local level that the local politicians, such as our county commissioners and maybe the Democratic and Republican Party leadership, could actually work together to cause the governor to understand? The governor understands. He understands the problem. He's a hospital guy.
Well, I think he's the one proposing the memorial to Congress, the one who wants block grant Medicaid.
He wants it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the party line.
It's going to be interesting because you just don't see anything about this kind of stuff in the newspaper. You don't see it until the governor signs the budget, and he's wielded his pen to...
Well, you really don't see it even when he signs the budget. When you hear about it is when the people start dying or can't get care, and then it appears in the news.
And then there's
kind of like, everybody was all down on Obamacare until you start talking about taking it away. And then you find out there's millions who have been saved. And, then it becomes much harder to take it away.
Well, it's just like I showed. Bill sends me the excerpts from the National Association of Elder Law Attorneys, folks, and I read it on a weekly or bi-weekly basis. And one of the things they talked about on there was when President Trump, if he does repeal the Obamacare, there are still parts of Obamacare, or I don't want to call it that. I'll call it the Affordable Health Care Act. There are still parts of the Affordable Health Care Act that have been implemented. They're going to be paid for, and there's no way to retract that right now.
I would agree with that. I don't do a lot of work with the Affordable Care Act. I do mostly work with the Social Security programs like Medicaid.
Yeah, I guess a point I'm trying to make, Bill, is that we are going to talk about guardianships on the second part of the show because that's what we wanted to talk about today. But what we're talking about right now in the first part of the show is something extremely important because you have, when I mentioned our sponsors, all those sponsors are people that work with the elderly. Many of them are hospitals, are nursing homes, assisted living facilities, people that get paid by Medicaid in some form or another, or some government program. If we start taking more of that money away, that's going to mean lesser forms of care available to take care of sick people.
Correct.
And it's going to make more of a burden on families. And right now, there are so many families that scream because they don't have child care. What are they going to do when they have their parents and grandparents come back on them. They can't leave them sitting on the front porch.
Correct. And what are you going to do about productivity then as well?
Yeah, it's a bigger problem than we're actually given to understand. But in actuality, some of these things actually are pretty simple to solve if you could have done a better job with long-term care insurance in the first place. And in a day when
well, part of the problem I think with all of this is that they have yet to get a grip on healthcare costs. Whether it's healthcare, prescription drugs, or long-term care, nobody seems to be able to slow down the increases in costs.
The growth.
Yeah, I saw a statistic the other day that, healthcare costs went up like 8% last year. It's still just blowing by the CPI. Why are these costs just continuing to almost grow at double-digit rates?
And the President, in his State of the Union message on Tuesday night, said that's one of the things we have to get control of.
Well, and he talked about, the prescription drug prices, but remember when he talked about that?
Yes.
One person who got that one drug that was able to solve their problem? Do you remember that? The Campare, or I think it was called?
Yes.
That drug costs $200,000 a year.
$200,000
a year.
Who can afford that?
Not you or me.
Wow, folks, we're about out of time. I got to wind it down for the half-hour break, but I hope you've. What Bill and I have talked about has helped inform you about some of the ills of our system. Let's go to when we come back. Stay with us because we are going to talk about some guardianship problems and things that you really need to know in terms of guardianship. So stay with us for the next part of the show.
It's the Talk to Me Network on AM 1510, FM 99.9, 94.7, and 100.7.
This is Joe Steckler, folks. We're back live with the second part of Helping Seniors, this Thursday edition. My panelist today is Bill Johnson. You can call us here at the radio station. What's that number, Gary? I made him
The number here is 241. What is the number here? I'm trying to figure out the number. Believe it or not, it's right there in front of you. I don't ever dial here.
321-241-1060.
241-1060. John, you can shoot me later. I should have had it in the bag.
I never dialed the radio station. I don't know.
Folks, it's Talk to Me Radio, so you got to talk to me. But I'm serious. We have a lot of wonderful sponsors, and some of them are Senior Scene Magazine, Seniors Helping Seniors, Aldea Today, Vitas Hospice, Ear Care, Barbara McIntyre, Home Equity Specialist, Aldea Today, the Veterans Realty of Brevard, Handy Pro of Space Coast, Canadian Meds in Melbourne. And Bill, you mentioned on the first part of the show that the tremendous cost in drugs. Folks, I have to tell you, if you want to help yourself with the cost of prescription drugs, you can call Joe Pons at Canadian Meds in Melbourne, and you can save yourself a ton of money. And you can call Kay at 473-7770 and get Joe's phone number. But it's really important that you get involved in your own care. I did a show, a TV show last Friday, and one of the things was Dr. Sheldon wanted to do a show about the patient involvement in their own care. And, you can listen to what the dentist says, you can listen to what the doctor says, you can listen to what the attorney says, you can listen to what a whole host of people tell you. But you need to take an active interest in, since most of us either got an iPhone or a computer, you can get on there and you can do a little research and help yourself. And having said that, I think it's really good advice. The phone number for Kay over at the office is 473-7770. But let's talk about the TV show that we did, Bill, a week ago. It's soon be on Channel 499. as this radio show today will be archived starting tomorrow night on our helpingseniors@brevard.org and be on worldwide YouTube. But basically, a lot of people, I think people have a misunderstanding of what a guardianship is. It's spell it out for them. What is a guardianship, simply?
Guardianship is where we go to court, and what we do is have you, somebody who's alleged to be incapacitated, declared incapacitated by the court, and then we have a guardian appointed to take those rights which we can delegate from that person to the guardian, and then they manage the health care and finances of that individual. And the way we go about doing that is we file a petition with the court, and we ask for the court to determine whether or not the individual is incapacitated. The court will appoint a examining committee off a rotating list of one doctor and some medical professionals. They go out, examine the alleged incapacitated person, and then report back to the court whether they think that person's totally, not at all, or partially incapacitated. And then typically if the person's partially or totally incapacitated, we appoint the guardian. That whole process takes about 60 days. If there's an emergency in the meantime, we can get you appointed or somebody appointed as an emergency temporary guardian in the meantime till we can get that all done. The court will also appoint an attorney to represent the alleged incapacitated person. Again, that's off a rotating list, and that's to make sure that the person's not being, railroaded through the system.
I think it's also important, Bill, for people to understand who can be a guardian and why it's important that they get the right person selected to be a guardian.
Well, the people who can be a guardian, you have to be over 18, you have to be able to carry out the duties, and you can't be convicted of a felony. So those are the basic requirements. The court will give preference to a family member. They will also look at the educational or professional work experience of a proposed guardian and see who could bring those skills to the job. They will look at who's capable of managing the assets involved, and they will also look at who can carry out the duties required by the law. So if there is more than one petition filed to become somebody's guardian, then we would have a contested petition, and the court would look at those 4 factors in determining who would be the guardian. There are people who do this for a living. We call them professional guardians, and they get appointed when somebody doesn't have any family, or sometimes they get appointed if there is a severe conflict in the family and you can't just pick one side or the other. It just won't work. And then we have a professional step in to get in between the warring factions. There is also what we know or call as a public guardian, and that is kind of a guardian for people who don't have any money and they don't have any family, and we need to get somebody in there to make these people's healthcare decisions for them, and they don't have anywhere they can turn to. So we do have a public guardianship system in Florida to appoint somebody to help with that task.
Think in terms of a guardianship now, but also think in terms of a checkbook. With the fact that so many people unwittingly, unknowingly put a member of a family on their checkbook, then to their chagrin find out that that person is robbing them blind in an attempt to get them off of the checkbook. Can they do that without resorting to a guardianship, or should it be somebody? How does that whole thing play out?
Well, usually what part of the problem is, the reason they don't know that the person's robbing them blind is because they're incapacitated. They may have named, a son or daughter as their power of attorney. They may have put them on an account, and next thing you know, they're helping themselves to the monies or selling a house or whatever it may be. And a lot of times the person who's incapacitated doesn't realize that that's going on. So sometimes we have to file a guardianship to protect the person from that exploitation, abuse, or neglect.
When a judge appoints a guardian, say if he appoints a family member and it was contested are those guardians paid?
Any guardian can get paid for their services. They do have to file a petition, and it has to be approved by the court.
So a family member that is appointed guardian could file a petition for payment?
Correct. They usually do not. Okay, but there are certain cases where they do.
I can see, in as many cases I've been involved, I can think the times over the years when I've gotten calls at home and somebody has made some really, really foolish mistake, and I've called one of your staff members. And I said, what can they do to get themselves out of this? I said, Joe, tell them to come in as soon as they can. Because in that case, if a person, if quote, all hell is breaking loose, you can get an emergency guardianship established. And how long would it take to do that?
Usually it's within a week.
But Bill, a person that was an improper guardian could divest their guardianship person of a lot of money in a week's time.
Well, usually if you know, let the financial institutions know what's going on, they will freeze those accounts so that the bleeding will stop, so to speak.
Can you ask for that as the judge?
You can ask for that for the judge, but the quickest you're going to get in front of the judge is about a week.
So how could you keep a person from being robbed blind in a week's time?
Well, like I said, you would notify the bank or the brokerage firm that what's going on, that somebody's robbing them blind, and they will freeze the account and wait for the judge to tell them what to do.
Have you ever had a financial account person not do that?
Well, part of the problem is usually we're finding out after the theft.
Okay.
Yeah, it's already been moved.
It's already been moved?
Yeah, that's why we're filing the guardianship.
What chance can the court force the person to give that money back?
Yes, the court can force the person to give it back. Regrettably, in some of these cases, the malfeasor has spent the money, and you can't force somebody to give something back if they don't have any.
But what if they had spent something and really put somebody across the breakers doing that? Mm-hmm. Could criminal charges be filed?
Yes. Yeah, Brevard County, we have a branch of the state attorney's office that deals with these kind of crimes. There's a prosecutor, Laura Moody.
Laura Moody.
Yeah,
okay.
And she does these cases, and they do quite a few of them every year, and that's what their job is to go after these kind of cases. And I was going to mention one other point. The problem we typically have is family. As you know, Joe, the number one exploiter is family.
Yes.
Yeah, more than likely the incapacitated person is being exploited by a family member, and subsequently that makes these things fairly explosive.
And they don't want the world to know they got the problem with the family.
Sometimes that's the case. Yes.
I probably would say that that's more often the case than not.
Yes, sometimes it just gets brushed under the rug.
Yeah, it brings me. Years ago, I did a radio show one time with two ladies that were both social workers, and you know them. And I asked them on the radio station show one morning. I said, "What do you two recommend?" And both the women said, "Call the abuse line. Get the problem started, document it."
Yes, and for those of you who don't know, that abuse hotline number is 1-800-96-ABUSE. Again, 1-800-96-ABUSE. And that'll get you right to, it's an anonymous phone call, Department of Children and Families. You file a complaint, basically, and then they will go out and investigate it.
And to let you know that it works, folks, years ago, I had a family call me that one of the members had Alzheimer's. They had gone into a car dealership to get their window fixed, and while the wife was talking to somebody there, a salesman had pounced on the man that had Alzheimer's, sold him a car, and the wife was horrified at what had happened. She asked him to cancel the sale. They wouldn't do it. She got on her cell phone and called me. I called the dealership. I asked them if they would cancel it. They said no. I called one number. I called the 1-800-96-ABUSE. Within 3 hours, it was resolved. It was on a Saturday, and they sent an investigator immediately to solve the problem. So, it helps folks if you know the right place to go when you have a problem. That's why I keep advocating so much that you call KO at 473-7770. And I asked Bill if he saw the article that Rob Raines had written in Florida Today on the 211 number. 211 is a wonderful number. Brevard County is one of the first that had it, but it helps with all kinds of problems. Helping seniors copes mostly with senior issues, and 211 is not, in my opinion now, I don't think 211 is as well informed on senior issues as we are at helping seniors. I don't know if you could comment on that or not, Bill.
I really don't have.
You don't know the answer to that. Okay, but both 211 and 473-7770 serve a purpose, and they probably, folks, are the two best places to go in the county to start getting an answer to a potential problem. I told you all earlier when I could get my glass. I had my cataracts removed a couple of weeks ago, and I'm in that never land where I can see and I can't see half the time. But the AM station for WMEL is 1510, but there's also 3 FM stations that you can pick us up on. For Melbourne and Palm Bay, it's FM 100.7. 100.7. For Vieira and Suntree, it's FM 94.7, again, 94.7. And for Cocoa, Rockledge, and Merritt Island, it's FM 99.9, again, 99.9. So, and you can also go on to WMEL station for streaming online, and there's just so much. It's 1510WMEL.com, 1510WMEL.com. There's so many ways you can get yourself informed. What Bill and I are talking about today, folks, will be archived on this, on helping seniors tomorrow under the WML line, and it's just important. The other thing, Bill, I think that one thing that I would ask you to discuss a little bit is the value of having court oversight of a guardianship and how that can help family communicate and prevent a lot of things.
Well, instead of going to the court and having a court-appointed guardian to manage the health care and finances of a loved one, you could simply have that person, prior to their incapacity, execute a durable power of attorney and a healthcare surrogate document whereby they would give those powers to a family member, a spouse or child or other relative or friend. And then you don't have to go to court to have that whole procedure where you appoint the examining committee and all that, which ends up being, somewhere around $5,000. And you can just do these simple documents and avoid that. The downside of doing those documents, the power of attorney and the healthcare surrogate, is there's really not a lot of people who've got any sort of oversight over the person who's making those decisions, especially on the financial power of attorney. A lot of times there isn't anybody who knows what they're up to. With a guardianship, one of the benefits of doing it through a guardianship is that you do have to file an inventory and an accounting. And that accounting gets audited each and every year.
By the court.
By the court.
Yeah.
Yeah, by the clerk of the court. And so you can see, or you'll every transaction that occurred in that person's name, and what it was for in that, and they make sure that there's no foul play going on. So that is an added benefit of having a guardianship, is those things do get audited, and that protects not only the guardian but the ward and everybody involved.
But if a person went to attorneys such as you and said that I really believe that I want a durable power of attorney and I need my health care surrogate documents done. The ballpark figure is something like around $300 or something.
Yeah, somewhere around
there. But you've already said if you don't have an absence and get involved in the guardianship, contested guardianships could cost $10,000, $15,000.
Correct. In a contested, you're even more.
So why not take advantage of doing some of these very simple things?
While you have capacity, go see a lawyer, get these things done, and then you don't have to worry about that, because at least we won't be doing a guardianship because you haven't done any documents.
Okay. So if you get a durable power of attorney prepared by an attorney is several pages long, and it covers. A durable power has to have spelled out.
Let's talk about that. Not all durable power of attorneys are created equally. Just because a document is called a durable power of attorney does not mean it gives you all the powers you may need. A broad grant of authority where it says something like, to do any power that I could do myself, does not work in Florida because our statute requires that you specifically give somebody a power. And as of October 1st, 2011, there are certain powers that the person even has to sign off next to. So if you are just taking some form that you're buying at a bookstore or something, and you think you may be covered, it may turn out it doesn't do anything. And if your power of attorney is 2 pages long, you have the wrong document. You need something that's going to be, a minimum 15 pages. Just because we have to put all this boilerplate in there about all the different powers somebody has. A lot of times we get people who move here from other states like New York or Illinois where they have these statutory forms that are one-pagers. They do not work in Florida. They check a box next to real estate transactions. Well, in Florida, that's not specific enough. You didn't give them the power to sell the property, sign the deed, execute the mortgage. So they do not work. So you really need to have a proper document for Florida, and it needs to be a fairly recent document that covers all those bases.
Okay, I'm going to put you on the spot. You don't have to give me any names. I know you can't do that. How recent, within the last day or weeks, have you had somebody come into your office with a problem you and I are discussing right now? How long has it been?
It would probably be last week sometime. I see it weekly.
It's a common occurrence.
Oh, it's very common, very common.
And that, folks, is one of the reasons I've started a new column, and it's going to, I don't know how many of you have heard about the Space Coast Weekly. It's a daily online newspaper. Giles Malone is the publisher. I will be a contributing editor to it, and I've asked several people I trust that get good information out to participate in this with me, just like we did in Florida today many years ago with the focus on senior. But I've asked Bill to be one of the people that will contribute a special column every once in a while, and I'm going to get several other people, and we'll do everything we can to ensure that you're getting the very, very best information you can without tying it to a you have to go to source. And what I'm saying is, these will be men and women that want to get the very best information out to you, just like we should be getting at our national political level now, and sometimes we don't do that. Bill, we're almost out of time. What else would you add today about guardianships that people should really really think about.
Well, I think that you really need to sit down and think who would make these decisions on your behalf. Prior to becoming incapacitated, you need to execute some documents, namely a durable power of attorney, a healthcare surrogate, and a living will, so that we preserve your wishes. And obviously, if you don't do these, we may end up doing a guardianship, having to get somebody appointed to make those decisions for you, and it may not be the person you want. Additionally, the guardianship is there in case you don't do these documents, but it's also there in case someone you name in these documents is a malfeasor, and we can get them removed and replaced.
But one thing they have to think about, Bill, is who. And we shouldn't be waiting until the last minute to do this, right?
Correct.
Okay. I want to thank you, Bill, for being on your show today and for being willing to take a little bit of the political aspect of it. It's not an easy thing to do, folks, but please pay attention to what's going on in the news and get more than one source. Be better informed. I'll see you next week with Dr. Sheldon, who will be on the show. Have a great weekend.